Is it?
I believe so. This is the 9th
so
episode.
bad I cannot keep track.
Well, wasn't Tim was the 8th episode? I think.
Was it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. We're doing this every week, so
we are.
It's like it almost seems like, man, is it ready? Is it time to do another one? It's good. I look forward to them every week.
But it is there's stuff that's you got to do your
homework. You have
and
homework.
if you don't, you're going to show up and be like,
that record got me high, by the way.
And that's Rob Elba.
And that's Barry Stock.
And this week we went for one of my choices, and it was a record that I didn't listen to this band very much when they were around.
Yeah,
and that's on me.
I didn't either, but I never. When did you discover them and realize that you liked
I really only first heard them and listened to them about 10 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
So, and when I was at somebody's house and they played, I think I mentioned the last episode, I was playing in a band with some guys, and when he put it on, and he has a recording studio, and he put the record on his studio.
He put on this record, Crooked Rain, the one we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put on Crooked Rain, and I was like, wow, this sounds incredible. And then I started paying attention to it. And then, but I guess I didn't really start paying attention to it until much more recently, which is, it's like the joke, Mickey Mouse goes in front of the judge, and he says to the judge, or the judge says to him, Mr. Mouse, I can't grant your divorce under the grounds that your wife is insane. And Mickey Mouse says, Judge, I didn't say she was insane. I said she was fucking goofy. So...
so how does that tie in?
It was fucking goofy. I don't know. It was fucking goofy. I don't know why I never listened to Pavement. Because listening to it now,
they have all the influences of people that you like already.
And they're older than I thought they were. Stephen Malkmus is 51.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's not like they were teenagers when they were.
They formed in 1989. Basically, it was like a studio project.
Right.
And this record came out. It was their second record, and it came out in 1994.
Right.
And I never, honestly, I knew the song "Cut Your Hair" because that was their big indie hit, and I knew "Range Life" I had heard.
Yeah.
But I never got into these guys, and I think digging into them now, I think I see why I didn't, and I'm still not. I have some kind of a disconnect with them where I just can't. It's
the clever.
You know what I think it is?
Okay.
It's because they're from where he's from. He's from Stockton, California.
Okay.
And he's got a very California sensibility.
Yes.
And I'm an East Coast boy. I grew up in Queens.
Sure.
And I think there's like some kind of disconnect between Stephen Malkmus.
Oh, you grew up in Queens?
Yeah, I grew up in Queens.
See, I thought you were in South Florida like most of the time.
Really? No, you don't know. See, me and Barry are going to discover more and more about each other as we.
Right.
No. My family moved here when I was like almost 12. So,
wow. Okay, so you were Ramones are from Queens, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
So that explains a lot.
I definitely didn't know about them when I was in Queens.
No.
So that's, but then in really listening, obviously, and listening to the record, I realized, it's a really good record.
Yeah.
Oh, they were a good band. Really, this is a band that's really his thing because because I listened to some of his later stuff, and it basically sounds like
Pavement. Yeah, you're right. There's that's in there. It's
got a little more polish to it.
Exactly.
He sings a little more, which that's the one. I'll tell you, my dig on them, I think at the time and still, is that I actually saw the worst thing I saw, and you told me about it. They were on 120 Minutes.
Yeah, right.
They did a thing, and I actually found the raw.
Well, yeah, that's what I told you to look for. The raw stuff. Yeah.
These are guys that are trying so hard to me to seem to not care that it's like it's so hard that it makes me not care.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. That's the thing. That's the question.
The question is it a put on, or is it just an act, or were they just? Is it just like?
Well, but they're sort of following the footsteps of you know, some of our other heroes, you know, Sex Pistols come out, don't give a shit, and
right, a very definitely don't give a shit, but a different type of don't give a
true.
shit. Hey, California, apathetic, and it's funny they were. He's compared a lot to Marky Smith and The Fall for some reason.
Well, the first album, Slanted and Enchanted,
is more
very fall. Yeah, there's a lot of fall stuff on there.
Because I don't hear that as much, except for one obvious song on this record that we will get to.
There. Yeah, right.
But I don't hear, because Marky Smith was definitely someone with an attitude, but he's also someone that was not like no Shrinking Violet at all. And,
no. Well, I think what they talk about in an interview, what Malcolm talks about in an interview, or at least, I think it was him. It was in this long article about the album. Did we even say the name of the record?
Crooked Rain. I did say Crooked Rain.
Okay, so Crooked Rain is twice. Yeah, with a comma. Is, you know, the things that they hear is overtly fall are sometimes them listening to people that have also listened to The Fall. So it's some of it's secondhand and some of it's firsthand fall references. So you have, because you know, The Fall they influenced a lot of people. And
they influenced, and they're just, because they were just one of these bands that came out and they didn't sound like anyone else,
right?
And they had his delivery was so different,
right?
And he was
the Mancunian,
such a character. Marky Smith, passed away
Snarl.
recently.
He did.
I read so many. There was so many great things that came up. Just things about him. What a character he was. Real quick, I just had
character is. I think that's putting it in a.
People were talking after he died. There's a guy, Richard Skinner. He was on the Richard Skinner used to have a show. Anyway, he was touring with this band Suede. So this guy Matt Osman, who's in the band Suede, he said he was touring with, and he said, but he found him to be actually very nice. He said he was very friendly, and he was helpful, and the shows were great, and he was friendly. So The Fall, Marky Smith was on this guy Richard Skinner's show. Like during the tour, he was doing an interview, so they were all listening to him on the interview.
Oh, Jesus.
And the Richard Skinner asked him if there were any does he like any bands that call him an influence? And he said, like who? And he goes, well, like Suede. And he took a pause and he said, never heard of him.
He was
so that's Marky Smith.
He was also notorious for just firing band members on a whim.
Yes,
like,
right.
Just like, I'm tired of you. You're fired. And so The Fall went through many, many iterations.
But all right, so we're not talking about The Fall, obviously.
Yeah, we did that last week with Ramones, right?
We did a little sidetrack, but he's one of these days we'll probably do a Fall. I think we'll do a Fall record.
I was sort of listening to one today and thinking, this would be good to do.
But all right, so the band, there was some changes in the band, right? Different drummer.
Well, the drummer that they started with was a guy who they had a studio. And he was an older guy. He was in his 40s or early 40s. And they did the first album with him in his studio. And then he toured with them. But whether it was, I don't know what kind of issues there were, but he was not happy with touring. Like he would get agitated and upset with the conditions of touring. And he had different expectations than these guys who were, younger at the time.
Right. Okay.
So
who was this Nastanovich guy?
Well, he's a
percussionist. He's listed as a percussionist, and I will say I'm the first to love extra percussionists in a band.
Right.
Like the guy in Brian Jonestown Massacre that plays tambourine.
Feelies have a percussionist, right?
Feelies. Barry's band, Mr. Entertainment, and the Boogie Smackers.
We have a
percussionist. And I'm all for that.
Right.
Someone that's just...
she's definitely the most attractive member of the band.
Yes, and she brings a lot of... They bring energy.
Probably the smartest member of the band. And the one who has to come to practice the least.
Right, well...
Because what are we going to do? It's like,
right. But, all right, so this guy is
Emily's here.
But this guy, when I see videos of them playing, he seems like... It was Stephen Malcolm's like a frat brother that knows all the songs and comes up on stage and does a little percussion and sings a little backup and just goofy his goofy friend that he lets hang out with the band. Does he do more of a musical contribution?
I don't know. I think that
I don't think so.
There's sometimes bands need they need an id character. They need the unhinged. They need the guy who's gonna be enthusiastic and gonna get up there and although I think Malcolm talks about that, or that he's not that involved in the studio stuff. Right. He's really a live thing.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But even live, it's not like he was that. He was just sort of
yelling in the mic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yelling random things, and there's some of that shows up on the record. There's some random things going on. I
think that they perceive of him as an integral member of the band, whether we do or not. They obviously they think it would be different if he was not there.
Right. Which is cool. I could respect that, but it just seemed it's just kind of funny.
His utility is not what is not the ordinary utility of he plays solid bass lines and he knows the coke dealer.
Yeah, no, right? He's not that guy. Not that guy. Yeah, definitely.
No.
So Pavement, I'll also tell you another thing that gave me a negative view of them, which in researching it more, I realized was not really fair. Was they were on the Lollapalooza 95 Lollapalooza tour, which supposedly they were supposed to be on the 94 tour that Smashing Pumpkins headlined, and Billy Corgan said, we will not play if Pavement plays on this tour.
Because Billy Corgan has a sense of humor of basically a cardboard box.
Right. So they ended up being on the 95 one, which was a weird one because Nirvana, I think, was supposed to do it, and then they backed out. That didn't happen. So the headlines ended up being like Sonic Youth and Hole, which weren't like so it was a real indie. It was the first real indie Lollapalooza, and I had read a Spin. I remember I read an article in Spin about Courtney Love was was insecure about Stephen Malkmus because he seemed so smart and so intelligent, and she was obsessed with thinking that she had a higher IQ from him and smarter than him. So they devised this contest where they were going to do a crossword puzzle.
You're making this up.
No, right? I'm not. And I found the article. Google is amazing because I looked up, I Googled Courtney Love, Stephen Malkmus crossword, and I immediately got the Spin article that they talked about it.
Oh my God.
And the thing that got me was she went out and bought because they were going to have this contest, and she went out and bought these crossword puzzle books, and he said to her, Courtney, I need you to know something. Okay. I've been doing the New York Times cross puzzle every week for my entire life.
Right.
Which is probably true, and it's not. So really, to me, it seemed just like kind of a douchey thing, but no, it wasn't. He was just being honest.
He was saying, I'm going to win because I do this all the time.
And I don't need your book, your crossword puzzle book. I don't need it. Right. So she got real mad. They ended up the contest never happened. Right. And supposedly, the one of the funniest thing was, I forget if she lost, I forget what it was, but if he lost, they would have had to have done a Pearl Jam song on Lollapalooza one of the days with no irony at all.
Right, had to really do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that sort of tells you what kind of band they were. That would be a punishment to have to do a Pearl Jam song. I can think of a band
that you wouldn't want to cover
with no irony.
Yeah,
right, with no irony. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny.
And there's some discussion in that article. I think it was on Stereo Gum. I didn't take note of it. I did do a lot of work on this record this week.
That's okay. No one's judging you.
But
we don't get graded for these. Yeah. Not yet.
We do. Actually, we get graded because every time I look at the play count, I'm like, what happened this week? We were boring or something. Something happened. And on the road they would play Scrabble, and so Scrabble they had a magnetic Scrabble set.
That's so funny. And what a not rock and roll thing for a band.
But if you also think about the lyrics, and as we'll go through the songs, the lyrics, there's I don't know if it's a literate quality or there's a word play quality to the lyrics.
Oh, absolutely, there is, and it's almost to the point of I could appreciate it, but then sometimes it's that cleverness again. I'm thinking, is it too clever? Is he trying too hard just to be clever?
I think I can shed some. I spent a lot of time with the
I'm
record.
Sure you,
I spent a lot of time thinking about the lyrics.
Yeah, because honestly,
I have some insights for you that might make it make
Okay,
more
good.
sense.
No, I'll look forward to that because honestly, a lot of stuff I read, it's the stuff that sounds cool, but it's like I don't get. If he's trying to say something, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So good. Barry will enlighten
let's
us.
go
with the,
song one, Silence Kit, which is actually Silent Kid or Silence Kid.
Yeah, it's written wrong because of the original artwork.
Their artwork, there was something that covered up part of the D and it looked like a T.
Right.
And so it just became Silence Kit.
And still to this day, when you look it up, there are a lot of lyrics that say it's that.
Yeah.
But it's actually Silence Kid.
Yeah.
And this makes sense for the lyrics and everything. I kind of get it because it's kind of about sort of a emotionally removed kid.
Yeah.
Like a jaded emotion.
Yeah.
So it could be about himself.
Yeah.
Also, another thing, just the beginning of it I really like because it's got a cool, like, false beginning to the whole song.
It does. Right. And then they yell out something to the drummer.
Yeah, but it's great. It's a really good opening to a record.
And it's a classic rock intro.
Yeah.
It could be a Bad Company song.
Once it kicks in, absolutely.
I went and tried to actually find. I kept thinking that's an overarching theme for me on this album is
Bad Company?
No.
Okay.
It's not that. It's that, man, some of this sounds so familiar, and I can't tell if it's because I've heard this record enough times or if I think the overarching feeling I get about this record, I guess in Pavement in general, and probably Stephen Malcolm at the time, was he sort of summed up a huge number of influences and took them and put them in one thing and said, well, what if you had all that here and it was woven in together so well that you couldn't really tell exactly where those influences were coming from.
Right, because I hear, through this record, I heard Sonic Youth.
Yep, Sonic Youth.
I heard the Meat Puppets.
Yeah.
The Minutemen.
Yep.
Just all these
Camper
different...
Van Beethoven.
Yeah, all these different bands. But then some of the stuff, I hear bands that I still like more than Pavement for some reason. But like I said, a lot of it I think could be my own...
Pixies.
Yeah, right, definitely. And also what I hear, but it's actually, I think it's because a lot of the same influences came up at the same time. Weezer. A lot of this stuff sounds like Weezer.
Right.
Which were coming up right about the same time.
Yep.
And they also had the same, which is the one annoying thing, they have a lot of the same singing quality where it's like, they don't, when they go to hit the high notes, they purposely don't try, they don't try to hit those high notes.
Where are Weezer from? Are they California band too?
Weezer, they moved there. They were from somewhere else, but they moved to California. But it's that if they really tried, they could hit those notes, but they don't. And one more thing I just got to say that I remembered.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because they had their video for Cut Your Hair was on episode of Beavis and Butthead back in the day.
Right.
And I know I saw that. And Butthead had the best, I think it was Butthead, had the best line because he said, first of all, he called it butt wipe music, and then he said he wanted the band to try harder. And I'm thinking, I kind of agree with Butthead. And at times, I want them to try hard.
There is a slacker. He and the other guitar player, I believe, or he and the other guitar player worked at. They were security guards at the Whitney Museum.
Yes, right.
That's kind of a slacker job.
Totally.
But
and he went to college and he studied literature or something.
Sure,
I think
English
so,
literature.
Yeah. So.
And it's got that. It has that, but I don't think you can count. I don't think any of that disqualifies it from that it's there's a lot going on.
No, right, and being a really good record. You're right, and I fully admit that it's my own haterness, which me and Barry keep coming back to the fact that we can be big haters. That's
yeah.
My own haterness that, and honestly, listening to this record a lot, there's a lot of good songs in it, and the songs stick in your head.
They do.
Too,
well,
man.
there's that. I mean, they are very catchy, but they're also unique, and there's just a quality about the way it's put together that is doesn't sound like anybody else. That's the cool thing, is that you can hear.
Well, at parts it does, because at parts there are certain parts and we say, oh, that sounds like this or that sounds like that. But when it comes together as a whole,
right.
And I think the fact is the songwriting is so strong that it sort of carries it, because they are. At the end of the day, there's some really strong hooks going on here, and really good.
And the way the record was recorded, it sounds very honest. It's not.
There's not
no
a lot of effects, not a lot of guitar.
Right.
Yes. Sounds like good guitar sounds.
Right. Apparently, it was done in a studio in New York, and they actually tracked the drums first, and then went back and basically everything else was overdubbed, even though it doesn't sound like it.
Oh, wow, really? No, it does not sound like that at all.
It sounds very live.
Oh, wow.
And they actually had to re-record the snare, and there's all this crazy stuff but the end product sounds like
to make it sound.
But it sounds like these guys are standing in the same room, I guess, which they did later on the later records. Okay. But Silence Kit. I took my take on it was somebody maybe talking to him, and you got no heel, no reels to remind you. Like, you got no heel, I mean, you're inexperienced. You got no reels, like film reels. You got nothing to look at. Right. You got no, let me show me your reel. It's something people in the film industry, you have a reel so they could see
again, a very California thing.
Well, it is. Yeah, California comes up a lot in this record.
It does, definitely.
Silent Kid, don't lose your graceful tongue. And of course, that sounds like him too, with his
right. So he is the
I believe so.
Silence Kid. I agree. I think you're right on that.
And then talk about your family. Your sister's cursed. Your father's old and damned. Don't listen to your grandmother's advice about us. And then, in the last verse, he's all of a sudden taking some X. And he's hand me the drumstick, snare kick blues, call upon I knew myself and into the spotlight. Ecstasy feels so warm inside till 5 hours later. I'm chewing. People take X and chew.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And screwing myself with my hand. He's jerking off at the end of the song.
Yeah, which was very
right.
Yeah,
and
that seemed almost a little out of character. That whole.
Well, here's what happens with his lyrics: is that you know how in a dream you shift scenarios fluidly, effortlessly, with no.
So he vacillated from this thing where he was the protagonist to like maybe not him, maybe someone else,
maybe it's all him. Well, obviously it's all him. Look, you're reading this guy's words.
He doesn't seem like a guy that would do ecstasy though, or maybe tried it.
Well, I'm going to add this in there. In the Stereo Gum article, there was a discussion of people, him being a hard person to interview, or the band being hard to interview, and not wanting to talk about the music.
Right.
And one of the band members said,
Shocker.
"Yeah." Or one of the band members said, "Well, yeah, Stephen was smoking a lot of weed around this time." Okay. So this is all my stew of stuff that I cook up during the week and spill on the table during the podcast. Is the way the lyrics shift in a dreamlike fashion from different perspectives.
Right.
And the thing that's known about people that smoke a lot of weed is that they don't dream very much. And that when you stop smoking weed, every person I've known who smoked weed over a long time and then stopped said, "Man, my dreams are really intense." And I'm imitating the voice there of someone that a childhood friend that I remember when he quit, and he was like, "I'm having these really intense dreams." So I'm wondering if his dream lack is spilling into these lyrics and the way that he shifts in the way you would in a dream from one context to another with no cue about the fact that you've shifted, which is what happens in dreams.
Right.
You're like, you have this dream and you're like, and then and you go, well, how did you get from there to there? And it's like, I was just there. There was no contextual thing. So
that's good. I like that. Let's go with that.
All right. Okay. And elevate me later.
Psychoanalysis from Barry Stock.
Yeah, that's when if you don't like
it's a hobby. It's your hobby.
I do like to tear shit apart.
No, and it's great. You know what? You're very convincing. I'm like, that sounds right to me.
But this has got some California shit in it too. Elevate Me Later.
Yes, Elevate Me Later, definitely. This is the one that I realized, oh, that's what it is. It's the California
Yeah,
thing.
he's talking about California.
Right, and he sort of breaks it up. The first verse
Even though the record was recorded in New York.
I know, which seemed really weird to me. And there's a song we'll get to. There's a song that's sort of about that too, their New York experience, and it's a total New York experience through the eyes of California kids.
Person, yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess they weren't. So how old were they when they made this record? Because I keep saying kids.
Well, shit. Well, he's 51 now, so he's 2 years younger than me. 2 or 3 years younger than me. So he was born in probably 67 or 68. So if this was recorded in 94. So he would have been 30 something.
Oh, okay, right. So
in his 30s.
So they weren't kids.
No.
I keep calling them kids, but they weren't at this point.
No,
right?
that's the difference.
Right.
Is that.
All right, so they got actually Sleep with Electric Guitars, Range Rovin' with the Cinema Stars, and I wouldn't want to shake their hands because they're in such a high protein land.
Okay, I've broke that one down for you.
All right, let's do it.
These are people. These are LA people. These are
totally
rock stars or whatever people.
Totally.
Because they're in such a high protein land. What has I wouldn't want to shake their hands because they're in such a high protein land. What has a lot of protein in it? Jizz.
I was just gonna say that, but as a joke.
No, I believe that is the joke.
Really?
Because they've been jerking off and they got jizz on their hands.
And he just was talking about that right at the end of the song.
He was. So that appears more than once.
So Stephen Malcolm is apparently obsessed with jerking off.
There we go. We were discussing.
We've cracked the code.
Yeah, there you go. As well. I don't think he's alone out there.
But aside from that, this is a good song. It's actually kind of a nice, short and sweet.
Yeah,
gets right to the point. Says what it wants and ends. Which
why are you complaining?
Yes. I like that actually. I like that little tie. He sort of throws that in there.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, Stop Breathing, which is it's
again. This is because there's so many tennis. He throws in a lot of tennis reps,
he's a tennis
and
player.
he played. Of course, he was.
Yeah, he's a tennis player. Yeah.
So he throws a lot of metaphors, tennis metaphors, and it's very clever. It's very clever.
There were the guys in high school who played tennis and did sports, but also were into cool music, and that's the weird thing is that you and I were haters because we we didn't do sports. We didn't go to prom.
Right. I went to prom.
I didn't go to prom. Well, you had a girlfriend.
My wife, yeah. I'm married to the girl I went to prom with. How lame is that?
Yeah, it's not lame, but it's extenuating circumstance.
Right. But we weren't those guys. We were sort of, we were definitely outcasts.
I would definitely in the outcast crew. But we had a band I was in high school. We had a drummer who was on the swim team, and he was a jock. But then he would come, and he really liked playing punk rock, and we would do these gigs at keg parties, and he would sit in for us. Right. Sit in and play drums with us.
Because the tennis is not a team sport, so you can you're like an athlete, but it's not like you got to be team. You're on a team.
No, it's like you. So you're on, and he there's a war analogy that he's got going on in here with the tennis. He sort of blends together tennis and he's got something about his dad. I wonder if he has some dad issues. They broke me. Look, okay, so you're either in a war or you're in a tennis tournament away from home.
Right. They broke me. Write
it on a postcard, and he says it in a really heartfelt way. Dad, they broke me. Dad, they broke me. Like either, he wasn't able to hold up.
Right.
So, and I think in the demo version of the song, which is on the extended version, he actually says "Start Breathing." I think he switched it over from "Stop Breathing."
Okay. And this song, definitely you hear another, speaking of sort of influence that you hear, a television. I hear television in this.
Yeah.
With the guitar interplay and stuff, and it's really cool. And I'm thinking, oh wow, that's kind of. And then I realized, oh, you know what? That's also an influence with them.
And before we break, I want to go back to all the way back to the beginning of the record to Silence Kit.
Yes.
At that intro part that we started talking about, I actually it bears some similarity to the opening of "A Love Supreme" by John Coltrane. It's got the feeling of it's called "Acknowledgement." Is the track on the Coltrane record. And since you're not a huge jazz fan,
not a huge one, no.
You probably wouldn't hear that, but I kept going, man, this sounds really like Coltrane. Right. And like he would start off playing these notes that were supposed to kind of like, open the gates of the temple, because Coltrane was super spiritual. Right. And so that's that. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, we're back. That record got me high. Episode 9.
I'm still not convinced it's 9, but I guess I'm going to go with you.
I think it is.
You're probably
If I'm wrong, I have to go back and edit the word 9 and make it 8. Which I'm not going to do. It'll just be
I know
fucked up.
I've noticed whenever we've talked about editing things, we've never.
No, I don't see any need for that. No, we haven't,
whatever episode it is, it is.
We haven't said anything slanderous or libelous yet. That will be edited out.
That we know.
Yeah,
that we know.
Right.
All right, we're talking about Pavement, Crooked Rain, and we're up to track 4, which was their big indie hit.
Yeah.
Which I was thinking, if they were one of these like one-hit wonder bands, right, which they could have been, this could have been like the hit.
Sure, yeah.
But no, they were obviously much more than that. But this song was a really catchy song, and this song was everywhere in the 90s.
Yeah, it was.
Cut your hair.
They didn't sign to a major.
Right. They never
stayed on Matador, and they've been on Matador since 1993. So if you look on Matador's website, Pavement is still listed as, there's a possibility they might get back together next year for a reunion tour.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's good. Definitely, you've got to give them a lot of credit.
Because they could, everybody was signing to a major then. There was a lot of money being thrown around at bands.
Right.
The Nirvana thing, and they stuck with Matador. And he had the owner of Matador had a distribution deal, or the owners of Matador had distribution deals with majors. He's going to claw your shit. We have a cat that's on the table that's being very naughty.
He can claw my shit. He's fine. I'm a cat lover, by the way.
I'll hear about it later.
I like cats. All right, so this I really like this song because he's singing about the scene and that time in music.
Right.
He starts out, music scene's crazy, bands start up each and every day. I saw one just the other day, a special new band.
Special new band. Right. He's definitely has had enough of
and then he says, I remember lying. I don't remember a line. I don't remember a word.
He also does the shifting perspective thing in this, because he goes from, darling, don't you go and cut your hair. Do you think it's going to make him change? So you have one perspective, which is mom telling the daughter, or friend telling her friend, the boy, he's not paying attention to you, changing your hairstyle is not going to do it.
Right.
Then you switch immediately to I'm just a boy with a new haircut. So, and that's a pretty nice haircut. So all of a sudden, so you've swapped over to a different haircut perspective, and change it like a puzzle. Hitmen wearing muzzles, and I wanted to look up, was there a movie where hitmen were wearing muzzles around that time? Was there a Tarantino thing?
I have no idea.
Or
I think it was just something he threw out because it rhymed.
You think?
I think so.
Sure, man.
I don't know. Well, because he doesn't
hesitate,
care.
You die.
He doesn't care. He really doesn't care, Barry.
Well, this is the third album we've had saying, I don't care, I don't care.
But he throws in an I care in there. Because he says, but I don't care. Right. I care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. Did you see the drummer's hair?
Yeah, the second drummer drowned. His telephone is found. This is which is weird. This is before cell phones.
Yeah, that is.
That
weird.
I was going.
He's so smart that he knew that they would be
and it's
cell
not
phones.
that. I don't know.
This is, to me, this is almost like pathological apathy.
I think that's what bothers you about them.
It is, and I fully admit that it's my thing. It's my problem.
That don't give a fuck.
Right.
And I'm gonna sort of show you how I don't give a fuck. Except that some of it's gonna sound it's going to sound really great. So you're
exactly. Oh yeah. Oh god, this song's still in my goddamn head. Driving here, I was singing this song.
Did you see the drummer's hair? So we have a third hair perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Is somebody in the audience looking at the drummer's hair, and did you see the drummer's hair?
Right.
And it's the hair sort of takes the hair is a stand-in for all of it. It's the bullshit, stupid hype. Jive. Oh, and then the last verse.
Oh, I think when we say he says songs mean a lot when songs are bought, and so are you, bitch. Right down to the practice room. Attention and fame's a career. So I think he's talking about some of these bands that did sign to major levels.
And then, of course, this is from the back of the weekly, the ad. You can see the 2-line ad in the back of the weekly. Advertising looks and chops a must.
Oh yeah,
no big hair. So the big hair era was over.
It's over. Yeah,
grunge was in.
Cut that hair.
He's just slicing through it with a razor blade.
Yep, it's very clever.
It's clever, but it's also brutal.
It is right. It is
because even though he's singing it in that happy, cheerful sing-song voice, he's slicing and dicing as he walks through the song. Just this, horrendous bullshit, and then you go to Newark Wilder, which is slow.
This is the New York now. They recorded this record in New York.
Yeah.
And I guess where they recorded it was near New Jersey. Because for people who don't know, it's just you could take a rock at some point and throw it in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So Newark Wilder is definitely a reference, I think, to Newark. And the wilding, that was around the time when they had the kids
going out
supposedly wilding and everything.
Go out and beating people up.
It must have, the city, especially in that time in the 90s, was still like a real, I remember New York at that time
before it was
the mean street. So it was before Disney took over Times Square or any of that. So to them especially, it must have seemed like a real mean city, and that's kind of what the song's about. And he says in the song, fly, 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 fly. Don't try. It's like, don't try. It's again Butthead saying, I want them to try a little.
Rob is not having it. He just can't stand it. But
that line, don't try. Again, it just seems that pathological apathy to me. But.
Crowds of the people and voices and steeples. You remember? You may not have ever heard this. Maybe it was. You ever have the thing where your parents had?
This is the church. This is the steeple. Yeah, open the door.
And open up
with your fingers. Yes.
With your fingers, exactly. And that's what that reminded me of. And I wonder if that's where that came from.
Oh, okay. Could be. That's good. I like.
Wild are the horses, stones, wild horses,
right.
And break up divorces and separate rooms from. My, I love your tinted eyes. Okay, remember when tinted contacts came out? That was a thing, and all of a sudden people could change their eye color.
Right.
And so...
I think that's probably what he's referencing.
I think so. So bad. This one's more freeform. He's definitely sort of just freeforming lyrics.
Right.
But it's this mellow groove, a lot of harmonics on the guitar, and laid back. All right.
We go into Unfair. Now,
another
song 6, Unfair.
Yeah.
This song very Sonic Youth. It's got that frantic Sonic Youthy outro part.
It does.
For sure.
Yeah.
And this we're back in California now. We're back in LA.
Yeah, and this one's he's like flying over. He does like a flyover thing in this song where you see him. It's almost like in the movie. Down
in Santa Rosa and over the bay, across the grapevine to LA. We've got desert, we've got trees, we've got the hills of Beverly. Let's burn the hills of Beverly.
And then he's talking about LA people. Walk with your credit card.
Walk with your credit. That's great. There's some great lines in this. Walk with your credit on your air, swinging nunchuckers like you just don't care.
This is the slow, sick, sucking part of me. And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Beck. And with Beck, you never know whether someone picked it up from Beck or Beck picked it up from them, because he's a very excellent appropriator of other people's stuff. But that swinging nunchucks, we used to call them nunchucks because they were from fucking Florida. So,
right.
I didn't know. Nunchuck is right. Right. And I don't know anything about, any of the stuff he's talking about in California because I have never been to California.
Oh, really? Oh, we gotta take you out there.
I'm an East, I've been to the West Coast.
You know what? I'm an East Coast boy. My whole life I thought I would hate LA. Both of my daughters live in LA now. LA is actually pretty cool. It's pretty nice. It is. When you go there, you say, oh, wow, it's pretty nice. But I think it's probably changed a lot. I think the LA of the 90s, whatever that he's talking about, was much more, although it's still superficial. You still have
superficial,
the
man. Yeah, I think so.
And you have the Botox ladies and everything.
So lost in the foothills of my, and by this point, he's yelling, lost in the foothills of my pride. Trocadero, say goodnight. There was a theater or a place where the Trocadero, right? To say goodnight to the last psychedelic band from Sacto, Northern Cal. So where's was Trocadero? Was it in L.A. or was it in San Francisco?
Could be San Francisco because he's talking about Northern, and it's funny because it's unusual. Usually bands are always going to sing about like Southern California.
He also talks about them stealing water, L.A. stealing water from. Man-made deltas and concrete rivers. The South takes what the North delivers.
This is something only people who grew up in California.
Well, I know I have some knowledge of California geology, so yeah.
Of course you do.
And then he says, and then he, at the end, I'm not your neighbor, you Bakersfield trash.
Yes, that's right.
I know enough about California that Bakersfield is kind of trashy,
right?
And also home of Buck Owens and the Bakersfield Sound, the famous country sound, which so influenced the Beatles, which we talked about last time. Wrap that on the big little bow and twist it around. Gold sounds. Go back to those gold sounds and keep my advent to yourself. This one's very. There's some interesting lines in here, but it is freeform kind of word association.
Right, it is, and it's actually a good. It's kind of like what makes me. I actually like this song, sort of, but that's what makes me not really like it. And also,
Rob likes things to have. He would like a
little more.
Being a metal man.
He also sings in that naive squeaky voice thing a lot in this song, which he does, which just bugs me. And he doesn't do so much. Like I listened to, like I said, his later stuff, and he doesn't do that so much. So I guess he kind of grew. I guess he grew out of it.
Well, he's got older, and it didn't. Yeah. It wasn't. But he says there's a great line in here. It has a nice ring when you laugh at the low life opinions. And they're coming to the chorus now, which is funny because he's talking about, he's breaking the third wall, and he's saying, oh, the song, we're coming
to the chorus.
It's like the Wire song, Map Ref, where he goes, where they do the verse, and he goes, after the verse, he goes, chorus. So there's a record, Wire 154, that one.
Wire, I would think he's going to rear his head at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
There is some good. I like the imagery. So drunk in the August sun, and you're the kind of girl I like because you're empty and I'm empty, and you can never quarantine the past.
That's
good. That's good. Those are good.
Right.
That's good. It really is good. He could have tried hard and written the whole song like that. But
Well, but the funny thing is, that when you get to those things, you get to you go through the non sequitur stuff, and when he gets to the sequitur stuff, it's a punchline. You're like, it
gets you. Yeah, no, and it did with me. That's why I had it in my notes and I wrote it down. I said, no, that's really good. Yeah.
I've been wasted advocating that word for the last word. Last words come up all. You've got to waste. So he's just scrambling up stuff. And, they're interesting scrambled eggs.
Right.
So.
Well, make it some gold sounds.
Right. And, and there was a comment looking at their influences. I guess there was the Rolling Stone review of the album when it came out was positive. They got 4 stars on Rolling Stone, but the guy teased out, he said this could have been a Cure song. Like there's something from the Cure that he heard in this. And then we come to the expansive
filler.
Range Life? Really?
Oh no! Did I skip? No.
Gold Sounds.
Unity, and then the next song is 5/4.
Oh, Unity.
Equals
Yeah,
Unity.
yeah. I don't have the. I just have lyrics, so I don't have that. Well, Unity is definitely. It's a
5/4 equals Unity. It basically it's an instrumental, and it sounds like a little Minutemen, fire hosey, meat puppetsy, and it's just kind of filler.
Well, it's actually two things. It's actually a jazz tune that's in 5/4.
I knew it had to be some kind of jazz
It's
reference.
Dave Brubeck, Take 5, and then it's the Beatles, She's So Heavy, the riff from She's So Heavy, stuck together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
there's a vocal version on the extended version, but apparently, and it's 5 minus 4 equals 1 equals Unity because.
Okay.
That's the. I don't want to get all fucking metaphysical on you about that, but anyway, they talk about that, and there's the there's a vocal version of it, and they decided they didn't want the vocals on it. So.
Okay.
But is it filler? I don't know. It's just an interesting little instrumental thing that's in there.
Yeah. No,
and it's almost like a bridge to another part of the record.
Right. Bridge to their song.
Range
Probably my favorite. It's probably my favorite
It's a
song
great
on the
song.
record. It is a really great song. It's obviously really catchy song, and very. I feel like the casualness and the snarkiness work better in this because he's sort of singing it from the point of view of someone else. I think it's really about a guy or either an older version of himself.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
not.
maybe, yeah.
So to me, I guess it didn't cut so hard.
Okay.
That it's like he's sort of stepping outside himself a little and singing about a third party. And I remember originally when I heard it, I was bothered just because he obviously does the little dig in the last verse about this being on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins,
Which they weren't. They weren't.
Right?
No,
Okay.
he was just making shit up.
Making shit up, and he called them nature kids, which I don't even know. What does he mean, nature kids? They ain't got
Right.
no function.
Well, okay. Remember again the shifting context. He may not be talking about the Smashing Pumpkins anymore.
Right, because then he throws in Stone
I don't
Temple
understand.
Pilots.
They're elegant bachelors. They're foxy to me. Are they foxy to you?
That's really funny to me. That's funny because when you picture Stone Temple Pilots and Elegant Bachelors, that's a great line.
Right.
But to me, it was almost like it's like low-hanging fruit, though, because it's like, yeah, they're easy band to make fun of, to make fun of bands like that, and it's almost like what you have are the bands like also like Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins, bands that have no sense of irony,
Right.
And are trying really hard, and then you have these a band like Pavement, which just takes the piss out of everything and just doesn't give a fuck about anything.
Right.
So I think my sensibilities fall somewhere maybe more in between.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That might be it. That might be it. But it's still. It's a really good song, and I've amended. That was my opinion of it back then, and I've definitely amended it somewhat.
Well, this was the one where I dug around, and he never mentions Camper Van Beethoven, but they are an LA band, and there's a Camper song that it's got sort of the same vibe. It's Sweetheart off Key Lime Pie, and if I imagine David Lowery singing this, I can imagine that happening. I can imagine David Lowery, his voice, and the way, and maybe it's just a similar sensibility.
Right.
But over the turnstiles and out in the traffic, there's ways of living. It's the way I'm living. Right or wrong, it's all that I can do, and I wouldn't want to let you be. So he's.
But he's not singing from his specific point of view, though. I don't think. I feel like he's doing a character at this point.
Maybe. Well,
yeah, that's what I feel like. I feel like it's a character.
Of course,
more of a character.
Yeah, maybe it's probably all characters. We're just subscribing to him. That we're doing the same. We're following on that same. Following that trap of thinking that.
Right. Well, you know what, Steve? All these guys, Stephen Malcolmus can write us at trgmh33
at gmail.com.
At gmail.com,
Which
and
we have
write us an
gotten.
email and correct us.
We've gotten a lot of emails from fans. Not really. We haven't got. Nobody's written us an email.
We get notice. Actually, do you get what I get? Are private? I've been getting private messages though from people.
Really?
I got today. I got from someone saying, "Do people give you records to review?" And I go, "Yeah." I go,
"No one's messaging me."
Oh
so,
yeah, no.
I heard a friend of mine go, "Yeah, I listen to the podcast, and it seems like you're like Elba's like the announcer, and you're just like sort of the color commentary." I was like, "Okay, thanks, pal." Thanks, buddy. Run from the pigs, the fuzz, the cops, the heat. Pass me your gloves. This crime, it is never complete until you snort it up and shoot it down. You're never gonna feel free. So drugs. And in the version that's on the extended cuts, the original or demo version, he says, snort a line and shoot it up. So he switched it around to make it a little less overt.
Because they definitely don't strike me as a drug type band.
I think smoking weed. They definitely had the weed. What time?
Yeah, they weren't dabbling in heroin and shit.
Does not have that vibe at all.
I don't get that, or coke either. I don't get a coke vibe at all.
No. And then he's got this one verse which is very cinematic. Out on my skateboard, the night is just humming, and the gums smacks are the pulse. I'll follow if my Walkman fades, but I've got absolutely no one but myself to blame. So it's a cool song, and then in the last two verses he does this thing which probably had a negative impact on their career, which was he goes after Stone Temple Pilots and Smashing Pumpkins in one verse after another, but not in a way that's really. He's not making fun of Billy Corgan.
No, he's not. And of course, Billy Corgan took it way too serious, and
we kept him off a tour because a big tour.
It's so funny. It's so funny. It's like the rap battle type thing, but with the indie rock version of a rap battle.
Billy Corgan goes on Alex Jones at a radio show, and as far as I know, Stephen Malkmus does not. So I think that. In the history may have proven his insights to be.
He's a bit of a nut.
Correct.
He's a bit of a nut. He is. And probably a bit of an asshole too. Seems like it.
Billy,
it's safe to say.
I don't think there's a lot of debate about that.
If you're listening, Billy, sorry. Send us an email if you want.
Heaven is a truck.
Heaven is a truck. This is one of the few songs that has like a lot of piano in it. There's not a lot of piano. It's mostly a guitar record, but there's a lot of piano in this song.
California comes up again.
Yeah, this is definitely more of a stream of consciousness.
Yes, lyrics, I don't really. This one I couldn't even.
You couldn't.
No.
Yeah,
it's not that I don't like the song. I think it's great. I enjoy it a lot.
It's enjoyable, but it's very stream of consciousness, and maybe this could be more like a dream, maybe like a dream type song.
Yeah, the sand in the boats of the rose-colored floats, like the Rose Bowl parade floats. The sand in the boats. Is there sand in the boats of the Rose Bowl parade floats? Because I'm from Florida, and we don't have anything like that here. Nothing.
Right.
I know arcs can't fly. I know the sharks, they don't have wings. But lady, this was a good line. But lady, you need some cold advice about a few things. So he drops back into reality.
Right.
Listen, lady, I need to. Let's get real.
Right.
Let's get real. And then loosen up my dress to tie me up just like all the rest. So I got the vibe from this. Maybe he's talking to an older woman who's like sort of hippie, past her prime, crazy. She's the queen of the casa, Pasadena, House of California, thrill.
I almost got that it could be like a homeless, like a woman that's like a homeless woman that was sort of that's her.
Right, and then we have the overt fall reference song, which sounds like a fall.
This it bothers me because it's overt. I mean, from the title Hit the Plane Down,
Yeah,
which could
Hit the
totally
Plane
be a
Down.
fall song.
Yeah.
We should say that Stephen Malcolmus did not write this, though. This is the guitar player.
Spiral Stairs.
Scott Canberg.
Was it the drummer to write this?
Yeah, whoever Scott Canberg is.
Let's see.
Who's Scott Canberg?
Guitar and vocals, he goes by Spiral Stairs.
Oh, okay.
Which
Well,
is
he wrote this, and it's I guess you could say it's an homage to the Fall. But it's got the bass heavy riff, and the way he sings, he goes, no survivors,
right.
which is the Marky Smith, and he does the falsetto, the Marky Smith falsetto singing.
Right.
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And it's he claims that, but who hit the plane down? Who hits the plane down? Godzilla. That was my.
Oh, okay.
Right.
It sounds like he's sort of like admonishing someone because drugs are taking over their life.
Probably, yeah.
That's but
every time I think about Hit the Plane Down, I think of just like the guy in the Godzilla suit. And
that makes as much sense
the
as
set,
anything.
So
Hit the Plane Down. It's it's
a fun song, and it breaks up the record. Gives it a dip,
What I'm thinking is probably because you said, especially their first record, they got compared a lot to the Fall.
Yeah,
they probably said, okay, well, you know what? Screw this. We're gonna
do one.
We're gonna do a Fall
song.
That
one? Yeah, let's do it like the Fall.
Right.
So Fillmore Jive, another California.
This is the last song on the record, right? Because it's hard because there's I know it's extended. There's
no, this is the last song.
This is the last song, Fillmore Jive, and this is now the Fillmore was the theater, right?
Yeah.
California, and I like this song a lot. I like this song, and I also like it because this song to me, it doesn't sound like he's trying quite so hard to make it sound like he's not trying.
Well, maybe this one was
because it's kind of about an end of an era. It's like the end of the rocker
definitely
era.
Is. It definitely is. It's almost end of rock and roll.
Right.
Which still hasn't quite happened, but it seems like it's closer in 2018 than it was in 1994, definitely.
Yeah.
Gibson Guitars has filed for bankruptcy.
Well, and it also feels like this could be the end of everything.
It does, doesn't it? we could get into that, but we only have 4 minutes, so we're gonna have to we're gonna save that for a future episode. But I do have, if anyone wants, I have a shell corporation. If anyone would like to donate money to my shell corporation for me to protect them, I would be glad to do that for you. So I'll send you my bank routing information.
Promote our shirts, but I guess
we got some shirts. We got That Record Got Me High shirts. We have them on Society 6 and on Redbubble. So and I got one and it looks pretty damn good.
I got to get one. But if you go to our Facebook page, That Record Got Me High podcast, you could see we'll have links to all that stuff, and we have links to just links to everything and fun stuff and people making their clever little comments. And so this was a fun fun record. I was surprised when you brought it out.
I knew that you maybe weren't going to be in love with this record because I know you well enough, and that I know the kind of things that might sort of make your eye twitch. No, this didn't make my eye twitch, and I actually did really enjoy it. And there you go, Crooked Rain. And next week we're entering a new era. Well, not a new era, but we're trying something new. We said from the start that eventually maybe we'd have guests. Yeah. And when we started doing this, we've been alternating, but we've been doing it at Brian Franklin's house. Thank you, Brian. By the way, despite all of our jibes, thank you very much for your hospitality. But one of his stipulations, I said, "Can we use your house to do the podcast?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "But if you have a guest, I want to be your first guest." Yeah. So next week we are going to have Brian Franklin. We're going to fulfill our contractual obligation. He totally screwed. I had the record I wanted to do next week, which I'm not going to say because I will do it in a future broadcast. But it was going to be the most punk rock thing we've done so far. Oh. And but we're not doing it. We're doing Franklin's pick, which is did I tell you already? Yeah, you did. It was good. It was a great pick. I'm looking forward to it. Strange Ways, Here We Come by the Smiths. Which is because Morrissey's. You want to talk about clever lyrics.
Right. Yeah, that's
So
true.
you're gonna
Clever lyrics
stab
by
Stephen Malkmus in the
annoying-
ass,
right.
and then you're gonna let Morrissey pass? I don't think so.
I'm sure we'll have things to say, and the fabulous Johnny Marr guitar playing virtuosity, and so that's it next week. Strange Ways Here We Come with special guest Brian Franklin.
So I just want to go back to Crooked Rain for just a second because
Yes.
the last stanza of Fillmore Jive. Pull out their plugs and they snort up their drugs. When they pull out their plugs, I'm guessing earplugs.
Oh yeah, okay, that's what
and
I
they
thought.
snort up their drugs. Their throats are filled with, and then the record ends. And so, what are their throats are filled with? Like snot, phlegm, or cries of pain. But he just leaves that open-ended stanza, right there. It's like you get to, he just leaves you hanging.
Right.
With, that's episode 9.
We think.
That record got me high. That's Rob Elba.
That's Barry Stock.
And we'll see you next week with the Smiths and Strange Ways Here We Come. And with Brian Franklin, our first guest.
God help us all.
God help us